Okay, welcome everybody. This is Doug Nesbitt, Director of Affinity Partnerships for CMG Financial, and you're tuned in to the Freddie Mac BorrowSmart Primer for Loan Officers. Welcome to the call. This is a super fast overview of BorrowSmart for those of you who'd like a high-level overview and then you want to go and research a little bit more. And many of you know me from the world of Home Funded. But the reason I'm doing the BorrowSmart primer here is because the two programs, as you'll see later on in the presentation here today, goes really well together. So the two programs go really well together, and you want to kind of think of the two as sort of partners in helping first-time buyers, particularly folks who are down payment challenged, get into a position where they can buy a home. So that's why we're pushing BorrowSmart at the same time we're pushing Home Funded in many, many cases. Presentation here today takes about 15 minutes, so we'll be out by 1/4 and you can get back to your day. So without any further ado, we'll get rolling here. You should be seeing a kind of a green-blue screen here that says Freddie Mac BorrowSmart. If you do not see that screen, please notify me via the chat panel, and we'll get rolling. If you have questions along the way, be sure to type those into the Q&A panel, and I'll do my best to get those answered as we go along, or at the end. We can stick around at the end as long as you guys would like to for questions. So let's get into it. A little bit about the grant itself. It helps lower income buyers, and you can use the money for down payment or closing costs. This is a Freddie Mac program, so put your Freddie Mac hat on, and we're talking Freddie Mac products. Let's talk about the income tiers, because these are the three things you want to kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about whether or not BorrowSmart might be a fit for your buyer. Anybody who's making below 50% of the area median income qualifies for a $2,500 grant right now, and that's up from the normal $1,500. The $2,500 is good through the end of the year, so we got 3 months left to be able to use the extra $1,000, and then it reverts back to its normal level of $1,500. So that's called the VLIP, or very low income purchase level. Then there's the next tier up, folks who make 50 to 80% of the area median income. There's a $1,000 grant. And then there is another level between 80 and 100% of the area median income. That's the moderate income purchase, and that's another $1,000 grant. However, the caveat here is that you have to be in a high needs census tract or a manufactured home. So those are the three income tiers and the three grants that are available there. For us here at CMG, it's kind of a missed opportunity because about half of our volume is below that 100% AMI level, which means that about half of your book is probably going to qualify, at least on the income level, for the BorrowSmart grant. So you want to be thinking about this every time you sit down with a buyer, particularly one who is making less than 100% of the area median income. And as we know, there's a lot of folks out there in that category. So make sure you are putting this front and center and bringing it up as much as possible. So here's some requirements for the program. It's purchase only, income limits as we were just talking, and pre-purchase counseling is required. Here's some of the details on that. It's got to be primary residence. This is good in all states except for Alaska and Hawaii. Sorry, loan officers from those states, if you've joined us. You can hang up now. Just kidding. But unfortunately, Alaska and Hawaii, and I'm not sure why, are not included in the program. Property needs to be identified prior to counseling, although it's not required. Because what happens is if you don't have the property identified, you go do counseling, and then all of a sudden the property doesn't qualify for some reason, or your income doesn't qualify. Again, it's all contingent on the property and the income limits there. And again, the property is going to determine the income limits because it's based on the AMI in the county where you reside. So if you change counties on that property, you might end up changing the AMI level as well. So just remember that if you move the property around, you could end up no longer qualifying because the AMI limits change where the new property is. If it's the same county, it's not going to be a big issue. Loan to value, looking at minimum of 90% all the way up to 97%. The program uses Home Possible for those two lower tiers and Standard Freddie Mac Conventional for the upper tier. So that means that you can go anywhere between 90 and 97% loan to value. On the manufactured home, the maximum is 95%. Again, it's purchase transactions only. You want to use Home Possible for those two lower tiers, below 50 and 50 to 80, and standard conforming for the top tier, 80 to 100. Must be underwritten with LPA, and there are no HFA bond programs allowed. However, home funded is okay to use alongside this program. In fact, it's recommended. In fact, the top producer for home funded is the top producer for BorrowSmart. And no secret, he rolls them out together, right? And he likes to call it stacking the two programs. So highly recommend that you do home funded at the same time you do BorrowSmart wherever you can, right? And again, pre-purchase counseling is required. It's $99 paid at the time of counseling. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And it's through Home Preservation Foundation. So that's the only pre-purchase counseling that is available here. We have a very easy way to check to see if your borrower is going to be eligible for BorrowSmart, and that is at borrowsmart.cmgfi.com. It's a quick website where all you got to do is put in some information about where the property is, the zip code. And again, that pulls up the proper AMI table. You enter the combined income of the borrowers and put in how much they expect to put down for a down payment. And less than 10% is kind of what we're looking for. And then you get a BorrowSmart certificate. That's it. And that's basically contingent on them completing the home buyer ed. Okay, quick tour of the bite screens that are involved. You want to use the BorrowSmart tab in bite. And it's pretty self-explanatory. The main thing to do here is check the BorrowSmart box at the top. That gets forgotten, believe it a lot. Then you just fill in the proper fields here in BorrowSmart and put in the income. And then you basically have to just select which eligibility tier that they're in. And that's it. Whoops, I scooted this slide along too fast. It basically automatically discloses that on the next revised LE and or the initial CD. So bottom line, it calculates that credit automatically once you fill in all of those screens. I'm going to pause 1 second. Sorry about that. True to form, there was a whole bunch of noise outside just as I got to the good part here. Okay, a little bit more about pre-purchase counseling. Here's kind of how that goes because you want to get them signed up for that, obviously. So once you've kind of either pre-approved or approved the loan, you want to get them going on home buyer counseling. It's a warm transfer, and there's a script in some of the materials that I'm going to show you on the next screens. You're transferring over to Home Ownership Preservation Foundation, and there's a simple phone number there to call. It's a dedicated phone number so that when you call over there, they know who's calling and they know it's CMG. And I recommend that you stay on the line with them while they do a quick eligibility screen. They're going to ask your buyer some questions. You want to stay on the line just in case buyer gets confused by a question or doesn't know how to answer. You want to just make sure it's a good experience while they do that screen. And then they're going to set up the time when they do the counseling session. And then your buyer comes back on their own to do the counseling session at that convenient time for them. They pay the $99 at the time of appointment. and then they go through the counseling. It's fairly quick. It's over the phone. Takes, I think, about an hour or an hour and a half at the very most. And then they've got a certificate of completion. You're going to want to submit that back to you so that you can include that in the loan file. So pretty standard stuff, but again, it's a warm transfer at the top, and we do have a script for that to be able to do that. Home Fund It. I brought that up. You definitely want to stack these programs as often as you can. Home Fund It, you can get an additional $2,000 towards closing costs very easily. And the reason you want to stack these is because the demographic is almost identical. There's almost an 85% overlap between the Home Fund It demographic and the BorrowSmart demographic. So again, no secret why our top producer of Home Fund It is the top producer of BorrowSmart is because he's stacking the programs together. And when you stack these programs together, you can get up to $4,500 towards down payment and closing costs towards your transaction. So it's a great program to put together wherever you possibly can. And the really nice thing about it is because they're doing homebuyer counseling for the BorrowSmart, and that's the $99 thing that we were just talking about, that automatically qualifies for the home purchase counseling that's required for Home Fund It. So they don't have to do both. Right? So they just have to do the BorrowSmart one. So they might as well go ahead and do Home Fund It. Again, Home Fund It sets up very, very easily. Recommend you start your buyer at the Home Fund It Realtor portal for one of your referral partners. If you don't have that, you can start them at the consumer website and just make sure they select you as the loan officer. Again, we match down payment gifts on Home Fund It 2-to-1. So it's very easy to get that $2,000 towards closing costs, and it works with any program. We do a lot of them with Home Possible. So again, the programs go together very, very well. The people who need the big down payment help are the people who basically are at or below 100% of area median income a lot of times. So that's why that 85% overlap is occurring out there. A little bit about training resources. How do you learn more about BorrowSmart? All the nitty-gritty details are on Think It Hub. There's a great training program there, so you can go there and find that. Just type in BorrowSmart and you'll find it. There are great resources on SharePoint. There's a program training deck. There is a BorrowSmart job aid, which has a lot of the screenshots that I've been showing you today with Byte, Clear, etc. Right? So that job aid is very helpful. And then there's a guideline addendum with a lot of detail in it. Again, all three of those documents are on SharePoint. In those documents is the script that you're going to want to use to do the handoff. And last thing, marketing resources. There is a great stacked program flyer, Home Fund It plus BorrowSmart, $4,500. That's a fantastic flyer. Just type in BorrowSmart or type in Home Fund It and you'll get those on Surefire. There is a consumer flyer, the one in the middle here, that's just for BorrowSmart. So that shows the $2,500 potential for that program. And then there's a BorrowSmart flyer that's designed for realtors. And that's the one on the right here. So 3 great resources in the Surefire system. And you're going to want to take a look at those and download those. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for being with us. I wanted to give you guys a high-level tour of BorrowSmart. If you have questions, feel free to type those into the Q&A panel. And if not, I'll let you guys sign off and get back to your day. Oh, one thing I didn't mention was that BorrowSmart's good for either first-time buyers or move-up buyers. So you don't have to be a first-time buyer to use BorrowSmart. You do have to be a first-time buyer to get the Home Fund It $2,000. So while Home Fund It can also be used by any buyer, the $2,000 is only good for first-time buyers for Home Fund It. So hope that clarifies. That's a question that does come up now and then. And I'll hang out here for another 30 seconds. If you got questions, feel free to type them in. Don't forget, we've got a Home Fund It training on Friday as usual. Hope if you haven't been to the Friday Home Fund It training, be sure to stop in. It's at 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're there every Friday. And that's one where you're going to want to invite all of your referral partners to, because it's designed for realtors as well as loan officers. So be sure to come to that. And if you're looking, like a lot of people want to ask me what's the link for the Friday training for Home Fund It. Here's the link. It's in the, I'm going to put it in the chat panel. And this is the link for the Friday trainings. Same link every Friday. And that's for Home Fund It. Invite your referral partners. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in, so thanks guys for being with us. Go out and make it a great day, and we'll see you on the BorrowSmart trail in the days ahead. Thanks. Bye now.